Hi, I'm Stephanie Ma from World Martial Arts Media, and today I'm here to tell you about LegacyBelts.com. Legacy Championship Belts and Awards is the world's premier manufacturer of custom and cast championship title belts who supplies belts to the top professional boxing, MMA, and wrestling organizations on the planet. If you're a promoter or collector looking for a high-quality MMA, martial arts, boxing, wrestling belt, or even a belt for a special event, then you need to visit LegacyBelts.com today. Be sure to like us at www.facebook.com/LegacyBelts.
Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and you are listening to the Justin Harvey Show. Yeah!
Hi, this is Bruce Hart of the Hart Foundation, brother of Bret the Hitman Hart and the late great Owen Hart, and you're listening to my good buddy Justin Ray Harvey. Hope you're enjoying the show, and all the best to all the fans out there.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Justin Harvey here on the Justin Harvey Show with a special WrestleMania edition of the show. I don't normally do weekend shows, and this is actually the first episode of PWF Wrestling, and I'm actually going to be their commissioner as Commissioner Harvey, and I thought the best way to start this new brand in conjunction with the Justin Harvey Show, I have my good friend Bruce Hart of the Hart family on the phone with me tonight. Welcome, Bruce.
Well, nice to be back, Justin. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you. How you been?
Not bad. I just got off the radio. I was doing a special interview on WrestleMania with President of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Cowboy Johnny Mantell, and Bruiser Brody's wife, Barbara Goodish. So had a nice chat with them, and it's nice to be back with you, Justin. Day before WrestleMania, and kind of going over the card and some of the opinions and perspectives on that. So should be fun.
Oh, absolutely, Bruce. And I wanted to first start off and say that I am very highly disappointed that yet again Owen Hart is not in the Hall of Fame again this year. So I was really hoping that it would have been this year.
Yeah, as I said before, I wrote on my online column, Heart Murmurs, a couple of weeks back about my disappointment with the Hall of Fame and the fact that Owen and my brother-in-law, Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, and my good friend, the Dynamite Kid, among others, are not in the Hall of Fame yet. They've seen fit to induct, people like, Jimmy Garvin, Snoop Dogg, and Jacqueline, and people like that. No offense to them, but they're certainly not anywhere near as deserving of Hall of Fame, candidacy as Owen or the Bulldogs or other guys like that. So I think it almost makes the WWF look bad. By including the other guys,
I totally agree, and I want to, with WrestleMania, a lot of people are, this question is burning in their minds, and I want to go ahead and start with this evening. What do you think about Shane McMahon against The Undertaker? I mean, in my opinion, Bruce, I think that they could have done better with setting up a match for The Undertaker. What's your thoughts on that?
For me, whenever you do something, you should have a pretty good reason for whatever you're doing, and the whole thing seems to me convoluted, where you have Shane fighting with another face, The Undertaker, that he has no pre-existing issues with whatsoever, so the conflict is between, as it's apparently is, with Shane and Stephanie and Hunter and Vince. Then by that token, you may as well have just had Shane fight Triple H. Like, if that's where all the conflict and the issue is. Like, Undertaker doesn't really have anything to do with it, so it's all well and good. I think it's nice. Like, I'm a fan and a friend of Mark Calloway, Undertaker. He's a pretty decent person, and certainly paid his dues and all of that. But at the same time, the whole match makes no sense. Why you have two faces that have no issues with each other, Shane and Taker, and you have Stephanie and Vince and all this kind of negative, rhetoric about Vince and Hunter and Stephanie putting Shane down, and Shane accusing them of ruining the business and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I say, well, why don't you just have Shane fight, Hunter or whatever, and, those are the two that are at odds with each other. Like, what's Undertaker got to do with it, so that's my take on it. I believe that Undertaker, from what I hear, it's probably his farewell. But it would have been better, my estimation, to have Taker go out with somebody that he had some issues with, or something. I don't know. The whole, for me, the whole card has got all kinds of major flaws. You got, to me, way too many matches that are gimmick matches. Like, they have this more is better mindset, but it isn't,
Yeah.
If I was, a big wrestling fan, it would be enough to attract me to see the one main event, like, say, Roman and Triple H, or maybe Kevin Owens in that match or something. But when I'm getting that match, and I'm getting the 7-man elimination ladder match with Kevin Owens and that bunch, and Hell in a Cell in a cage, and triple threat Divas match, and another 10-man Divas match, and another hardcore match with the Usos and the Dudleys, and AJ Styles and Chris Jericho. To me, way too much overkill, and I almost to the point where it detracts from, if I was a wrestling fan, I'd almost be going, man, that's too much. I can only digest so much, and the problem is you get too many of these guys, and they're going to be all, and you can't blame them for endeavoring to outdo each other, but after a while, you can only, after about the 100th, chair shot, or hitting the head with the kendo stick, or, going through the table and all the other stuff, it's almost like it starts desensitizing you to the point where you don't and can't react. After about the 100th time, I hear a bunch of smart marks going, holy shit, whatever. I almost got to the point where I'm like, I'm almost overdosed on the stuff to the point where it doesn't even matter, and that's not a good way to be doing it, from what I've seen in my, having been a booker and a wrestler. You have to you have to value what you're doing. If you're cheapening your product, then all you're doing is making it harder for yourself. Like, if I see the Undertaker give one tombstone pile driver and he pins a guy, I'm probably likely to react. But if he gives Shane 20 and Shane keeps kicking out or something, after a while, I get to the point where I don't even know what to react to. If you shoot a guy and then he gets up and you shoot him again, and after a while, so many times, and it's kind of getting like that. I saw the other day in the preview to this thing with Dean Ambrose and Brock, which I don't have great vibes about either, but I get to see Brock give Dean maybe 20 suplexes, and Dean gets right up, and I said, well, I'm saying, well, maybe the suplexes aren't that devastating or something, so everything is what you make of it, but you have to be, kind of consistent. I go back to the simple analogy of a Popeye cartoon. If Popeye gets the can of spinach and he does whatever to Pluto, and then Pluto jumps up and kicks Popeye in the gonads or something like that, and so, then after a while it's like, I've been preconditioned to react to the can of spinach, but now that Pluto's made the comeback, maybe, what am I supposed to react to now? And I'm kind of like that with all of this. You have all these, excessive means of making you react, and you get to the point where, you almost become kind of insensitive to the whole thing, because everything is kind of a perversion of the preconditioning, which is unfortunate, but it's something that the WWE should be, they should be giving more thought to how they do these things, rather than just, kind of going to great lengths to overstate everything. If you've been a wrestling fan for many years, but I know back in the day, if you had one Extreme Rules match in the card, that would be it, and that would be the main event and the centerpiece and the thing that everyone was kind of looking forward to, reacting to. But as I said before, you got world titles, you got ladders, you got Hell in the Cells, you got street fights, you got no DQ hardcore matches, you got triple threat divas matches, you got 10-man divas matches, you got 10-man, with 10-woman divas match, and you got a hardcore tag team match, and it to me is way too much overkill. And the part that's also problematic is that they don't have that much else. Like, you put all your eggs in that one basket, but a month from now, they're going to have already kind of seen all those matches. So a match that should be, like, for me, I would have saved, say, Jericho and AJ for the next pay-per-view, instead of having it kind of buried in the undercard on this show, or I would have saved the Usos and the Dudleys, or I would have saved the 10-man Diva Fest, or I would have put Dean Ambrose and Brock, in a big confrontation at the next, kind of in your house pay-per-view or something. Like, you give them all on the same card, and there's, correct me if I'm wrong, there's not that much else that's brewing on the horizon. That's, so I'd far rather see some of those matches for the first time a month or two from now, rather than seeing them as kind of encore performances. It's like, well, I already saw
Yeah.
Kevin Owen and Sami Zayn on WrestleMania. This is kind of a rematch. I already saw AJ and Chris Jericho. I already saw Charlotte and Becky Lynch or something like that. You know, that's sort of what I'm saying. Those matches have almost been demeaned because if you try to market them as main events down the road, everyone's going to say, well, that was just kind of like one of the preliminary matches at WrestleMania, so it's no big deal. You know, it's almost like, who cares?
Yeah.
Back in Kalisto, you know, it was the opening match, or it was not even on, it was on the pre-card or something like that. So, now you're expecting me to buy it as a main event, but they should know better than that. You know, you have to kind of spread things out, and that's part of what booking is all about, is kind of not using all your ammunition on any one card. You have to keep kind of saving it for the next time and the next time and the next time. So, you know, it means something, because unfortunate part of it right now is there's, aside from what's on WrestleMania, there's not that much else in reserves. Like after WrestleMania, it's not like something that you and I know, like there's this guy and that guy, are going to be the big thing after. But the only guys that might be maybe the return of Seth Rollins, but that's that's about it. You know, if you can call Randy Orton maybe something new, because I'm not sure if he's on the card or not. I'm not sure if he's been injured or suspended or what. But aside from that, there's not any real hot issues that I know of that are kind of people are clamoring to see. You know, it's kind of like they're using all their ammunition for this one thing. And as I said before, it would have been better for this card to have half as many matches, but make those matches better. You know, if you got 10, 12 matches that are all trying to be the showstopper or whatever, as Chris Jericho used to say, then by the end of the card, you've almost kind of exhausted the people's attention span and their emotional ability to, get into it and all. Because, and so, having said that, I probably would have put aside half of those matches and then put the 5. Say you did ultimately decide you wanted to have Shane and Taker, and you wanted to have Roman and Hunter, and you maybe wanted to have AJ and Chris Jericho and a Divas match and maybe a tag. Then you could have made those matches longer and put more into them. But given that there's 12 or whatever many matches, all those matches are going to have to cut their time in half and go through, kind of a high spot fest and shove it down people's throats, which to me is compromising the quality of what you're endeavoring to give to people. It's like shoving a bunch of food down people's throats at a restaurant, and then also saying, well, because we have to shove all this food down the throats, we can't cook it long enough, and we can't serve it properly. We're just going to, and that's what it's kind of like here, like all those matches, like say, for example, Jericho and AJ Styles is a match that's probably, those guys are good enough workers that they could probably work 30 minutes and, build to a climax and all, but because they're, rushed for time and they got 12 other matches or something.
Yeah.
I'd say most of those matches are going to be shortened to the point where like 5 or 6 minutes and get in and get out. Well, that doesn't do justice to a Chris Jericho or an AJ Styles because they don't work that style, So, and I think that's going to be part of the problem. You start looking at all those matches on the card. If you actually let them go out and do justice to what they're capable of, then the card's going to go about 5 hours, because Dean and Brock need to build up to a climax, and AJ and Jericho need to, and the Dudleys and the Usos and the 10-man Diva, whatever the heck that is, and Roman and Triple H are not real fast, dynamic styles either, so they're going to have to build, but, at that point you can't do that because you have so much, so, at some point you're compromising, but as I said before, I think they would have been better off having half as many matches, but make those matches twice as good as they're likely to be, and instead I'm likely to see 10 or 12 matches that are unfortunately all high spot fests and using all the I don't see it as a reasonable compensation for wrestling, where you're pulling out chainsaws and chairs and tables and ladders and kendo sticks and like that. I've said that a long time. Like any non-wrestling idiot on the street can hit somebody on the head with a sledgehammer or shoot somebody or hit them on the stick, or it's not wrestling. So you can only do so much of that before it starts becoming kind of tired, and unfortunately see that kind of likely to happen here.
Yeah. Would you say, like, speaking of Taker, if this is Taker's last hurrah, so to speak, I will be very disappointed because many fans have wanted Taker versus Sting for many years, and I think it's a big mistake on WWE's part not making that happen. What's your thoughts on that, Bruce?
I think it would have made a lot more sense than Shane and Taker. Like, we were saying before, there's no issues between Shane and Taker that I know of.
Yeah.
There's nobody that I know of was clamoring to see Shane and Taker go at it at wrestling. Correct me if I'm wrong, I certainly wasn't like, wow, So I think, they would have, they should be taking those things into consideration. And I'm not a huge fan of making all these stipulations like I'm going to do this if I lose and stuff like that, because in its own inadvertent way, it's almost a tip-off to the finish, if you know what I mean. Like, if you're making these stipulations, and the next step for the most fans is to kind of deduce, well, I guess Shane has to go over because we know that he's not going to be permanently out of the picture type thing, or, and so sometimes you're better off not, kind of almost giving the people a tip-off as to what the finish is going to be, because some of those stipulations almost tend to do that, where you're, I'm going to do this if I lose, so you sort of say, well, I know he's not going to do that, so I guess he's going over, type thing. But, But I hope Taker goes out on his terms, and he's certainly been a very respected and, iconic person in wrestling history, and I think they hopefully let him have some input into how that transpires or whatever,
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope, as I said on my online blog, I hope they work within their means. Like Shane isn't really a wrestler. He does some high spots and stuff, and Taker's not really much of a bump taker. His style's been kind of this indestructible kind of monster type. So that doesn't, on paper, make for a very good, combination, so to speak. You got a guy who doesn't take bumps and a guy who doesn't, do much either. So, neither one. I think Shane isn't much of a brawler, and if they're just hitting each other with sticks, and I've become so kind of jaded or tired of seeing the timekeeper's table getting smashed, and and the tables being pulled out from under the ring, and the chairs and the ladders, and you can bet you're going to see all that in so many of the other matches, like the Kevin Owens match and the Dudleys match and maybe the Divas match and Brock and Dean match, and so if Taker and Shane are gonna, if they're planning on doing any of that, they frankly need to tell all the other guys to not do that, and I'm sure that won't be happening. Like, especially when that's all the Dudleys do is that type of stuff. That's all Kevin Owens and all those guys are going to be doing in the ladder matches, or that's all Roman and Triple H are going to be doing with their sledgehammers and sticks. All the other, so you have to take those things into consideration when you're booking these cards. That you don't have what we used to refer to as gap and overlap, where you got nothing but high spots and holy shit and all that stupid stuff. Because people can only digest so much of that. As I said before, you give a guy a big move one time and you pin him and people react, but you do 100 big moves and you don't even get a one count after a while, and it's almost like I guess I shouldn't react to any of this. You get desensitized, and you should never lose sight of the fact that the fans are ultimately the people that you need to be engaging and making feel like they have a very pronounced part of it. That's what it's all about. But just some of this indicates to me that they've lost sight of that, or they seem to have forgotten that, which is hard to fathom when that should be your ultimate consideration anytime you ever book a damn card, is how you're going to sustain and engage the fans.
Just to switch gears just for a second, Bruce, what have you been into these days? Are you still teaching and stuff, or what have you been doing with yourself these days?
I'm still teaching school here up in Canada, and I've been doing the Hart Murmurs online wrestling column and the Heartbeat Radio. I just finished that about an hour before I came on with you. I was on with a bunch of the people that are down at WrestleMania, like Bruiser Brody's wife and Johnny Mantell, the president of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and a bunch of that. So we were just discussing some of those things. And I know next week we have a really interesting, I think, conversation with some of these old school legends, including, I'm not sure if you've heard of him. He was an old school legend from back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, a guy named Don Leo Jonathan.
I've heard of him. I'm not very familiar with him, but I've heard of him. So.
Yeah, on with him and another old school legend who was the WWF champion back in the 70s named Ivan Koloff.
Now, I know of him. Yes, I know of Ivan Koloff. Yes.
And Don Leo Jonathan's been wrestling since the late 1940s, and he was, in fact, I guess with Vince McMahon's grandfather, Jess McMahon, when he passed away in 1952.
Mm-hmm.
So he's certainly got a long and proud history in the wrestling business. And Ivan Koloff, and I think the president of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, is on with us, Johnny Mantell, and then another familiar face, Hillbilly Jim. So we'll be kind of just discussing WrestleMania and and maybe some of the old school stories with Don Leo and Ivan Koloff. And I think, as I've said before, the WWE needs to, remember and keep that in mind. Revisiting the legends of the past and what wrestling was back in the day, and sometimes they seem to have lost sight of that, which has compromised their product quite a bit, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And are you still doing your wrestling company, Stampede Wrestling, or how's that going?
Yeah, we're still training quite a few guys up here, and I know my sons have been doing quite a bit, and I'll have to have my son Tori talking to him about you, Justin. Maybe he could come on your show sometime and tell you what it's like to train, and what he's trained quite a bit with my other nephew who was in the WWE and is actually quite talented, David Hart Smith.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
His real name is Harry, but they called him David Hart Smith. But yeah, he's a really good up-and-coming prospect and has kind of got an old-school attitude,
Yeah.
It's kind of like similar to Owen and Dynamite and Pillman and those guys,
Yeah, that's what I love about the network. You can go back to the old days of wrestling and watch the old matches of, the Hart family and, the good old days.
Yeah, I've said it many a time before, Justin, but I think and the biggest problem I find is there's a misconception where you say old school and they tend to think that you're talking about, kind of boring or, old trunks and black shoes everyone's wearing and all of that. But old school is more just, making it look real and engaging the fans and, treating wrestling like it's the main thing, not all the other non-wrestling elements like talking and costumes and lights and smoke and mirrors and stuff. So
yeah.
I certainly know most of the old school guys that I was involved in training. They're among the most respected and most highly regarded guys in the history of the business. People like Brett and Owen and Dynamite and Davey and Benoit and Pillman and guys like that. Those are old school guys, and so I think there needs to be more people like that. There's a lot of other guys that I know that I held in that same high regard. Like I think Shawn Michaels was pretty old school, and I think AJ Styles is old school. Hopefully he'll get a chance to let him do what he's really capable of. And some of the Japanese guys I hear good things about, like Nakamura and some of them. I hope they, hopefully they'll be given an opportunity to show what they're capable of. If that was the case, it would be good for the business. The business needs to kind of regain some of its own respectability, and it needs to reestablish and redefine what it actually is endeavoring to be. And I think that's part of the problem. They don't have any clear idea. It's certainly based on even what WrestleMania.
Yeah.
If they had a clear idea of what they were actually endeavoring to be, then half of those matches would not be on the card. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are they going to do when? Yeah. It's like, what are they going to do when they actually quit? It's like, what are they going to do?
Well,
Yeah,
one of the biggest indications to me that is a cause for concern is that invariably seems like people are clamoring for these, The Rock or Shawn or Mick Foley or, Sting and guys like that. And it's, flattering to them, but at the same time, it unfortunately doesn't say very much about what's up and coming. Then it's kind of like the past is better than the future, which is not the way it's supposed to be. So
yeah.
But they need to re-examine their whole approach, I believe, and then I'm not sure if they're capable of that, or if they do re-examine, they actually have to go back to square one and kind of sow the seeds at the grassroots. And that's not an overnight process. It's kind of ultimately redefining how they want wrestling to be perceived, and re-educating the wrestlers. You got a bunch of wrestlers right now. I respect them because they're trying hard, and I think they have some passion. Some of them are just ass kissers and have no business being in there, but most of them, I think, have some passion, but they haven't been taught very well, and they're endeavoring to accommodate people in the office, and in a lot of cases don't have a clue what wrestling is either. These so-called script writers and story writers, and at some point you need everyone to be on the same page. And one of the biggest problems, it's like a red alert. If you know anything about the wrestling business, when you hear there's more than one writer for WrestleMania or something egregiously wrong with that. Like, it doesn't matter whether Titanic or Avatar was 10 hours long or whatever. You still just have one writer, one director, whatever, and for that reason, you know what it is, and they go in whatever direction they want. But when you have 4 or 5, if you had half a dozen coaches coaching the New England Patriots during the Super Bowl game or something like that, it would be a recipe for disaster. So I'm constantly puzzled. Is that like I booked out here for years, and I never had any second or third or fourth 5 people contributing. Maybe have some people give you suggestions and stuff, but ultimately you have to just have one person cooking the meal. And if you have other people cooking the meal for one match and all the other, then you're inviting kind of disaster with you having finishes that contradict each other, and you got high spots in every match, and you got preliminary matches pulling out chainsaws and stuff. It kind of in no other sport or anything would you be doing that. If you were at a rock concert and you had the opening act at the Rolling Stones stomping on baby chicks and pulling out chainsaws and setting fire to the stage and stuff. Somebody would fire them. At some point you need to, one head needs to know what the other's doing, type thing. But
yeah. So do you think that the Big Show is about done with his career, or what's your thoughts on that?
As I said, I taking it one step further back with the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, I think it's, in its own way, it's almost an insult to Andre, because the Battle Royal now with Andre the Giant thing, it's become just a dumping ground for all the leftovers, the jobbers, the guys that they've reduced to the undercard, the guys who are, on the downhill slide, or or they don't have any dancing partners. And so in its own way, that's more of an insult to Andre than it is a compliment to him. They may as well, if you're going to have a battle royal in Andre's name or whatever, you may as well have a whole card. You may as well call it the Andre the Giant Royal Rumble, or have all the big stars in it. Where you have Hunter, and you got Roman, and you got Ambrose and Seth, and and then they're vying for this big prize like the Masters Golf Tournament or something. When you have all the leftovers and the guys that they couldn't find an opponent for, and it's the opening match on the card. It's complete nonsense to have a battle royal as the opening match on the card. It's like complete antithesis of what it's supposed to be about. So it's almost become more of a negative stigma. It's like the team that plays the Harlem Globetrotters or whatever. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's pretty much what that Andre the Giant Battle Royal has unfortunately become. So I suppose it's probably predictable that Big Show might win, although, there's a few guys, that I'd like to see maybe win just because they've been used so poorly. It'd be nice to see them get a little bit of a break, maybe like Curtis Axel or, some of those guys that might deserve a little bit better treatment, but...
Yeah. I would actually love to see you back in a WWE ring.
Yeah.
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just hope they go easy on for want of a better term, on the bullshit. I hope they don't overdose it with chainsaws and sledgehammers and chairs and ladders and tables and kendo sticks and tits and ass, all of that, like almost to the point where the wrestling becomes inconsequential compared to the high spots and the props and the gimmicks and the interviews and the swerve finishes and the run-ins and blah, 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 it's like, and they need to really keep that in mind, but I'm not sure if they will.
Yeah. And Bruce, I wanted to tell you real quickly, after 2 years of rejections, this very show is now on iHeartRadio, which is one of the biggest platforms that any podcast or radio show can be on. So I'm very proud of that. So this will be on iHeartRadio when released.
That sounds great, Justin. Maybe you can spell that out for our listeners. Maybe they can, iHeartRadio, is that what it's called?
Yes, sir. iHeartRadio. It's IHERT Radio. It's one of the biggest platforms that any show can be on. They don't take any they don't take just any podcast. You have to meet certain requirements, and you have to have good content. So.
Well, that's great. It's certainly a testimonial to your hard work and your passion and dedication. So I'm happy to hear that. And as I said before, anytime you want me or maybe one of my brothers or something like that, feel free to call me, and happy to come back again, Justin.
Oh, absolutely, because I'm thinking, Bruce, me and you need to do something at least once a month so we can keep up with what you're doing with your podcast, with your wrestling promotion. I mean, everything. And because you know me, Bruce, I'm a big fan of the Hart family. So. Yeah,
and a big friend of the wrestling business too, Justin. Your heart is in the right place, so I certainly I respect and admire your contribution, and you're certainly a testimonial to a person who's overcome a lot of adversity and has a great attitude and a great drive, and you've overcome a lot, and you've certainly been a great role model to a lot of other people.
Well, I just want to be treated like, I just try to treat people the way I would want to be treated, I mean, that's just how I roll, so to speak, and it's a true honor to know you, and it's a true gift, because, for example, I was a couple months ago, I saw Chris Jericho again, and I walked up to him and I said, how you doing, Chris? He says, I'm doing good. And I said, I wanted to tell you, one of my buddies said hi, and he says, who's that? I said, Bruce Hart of the Hart family. And he just looked at me real shocked. He's like, how do you know Bruce? And I'm like, Bruce has appeared on my podcast for, a couple years now. So it was pretty cool telling Chris that. So.
Oh, that's good. And a genuinely nice guy, Chris. I'm not sure if he plays different roles on TV. To his credit, as a heel, sometimes he makes people hate him, and it just means he's doing a good job. But a genuinely nice guy, Chris. I have a lot of respect for him, and in and out of the ring, So I'm glad he was nice and lived up to what you were expecting.
Yeah, he was a really, really nice guy. And then I got to meet Mick Foley last year, and he was a really, really nice guy. Even bought me dinner and everything, Bruce. I mean, he was a really awesome guy. Awesome guy.
It's nice when you hear some of the guys, are nice guys and decent persons and stuff like that, because unfortunately all too often you hear the opposite, and guys that are perceived to be heroes and egomaniacs and jerks and don't have time for the fans and stuff like that. So I always, it makes me feel good if I hear of one of the wrestlers, especially one that I've known or helped train or something, and people speak well of them, I sort of, makes me feel good that they've kind of not let it go to their heads, or they've got their hearts in the right places,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And before
I know that if your show became like a huge worldwide phenomenon, I have no doubt you'd still be a genuinely nice, compassionate and caring person, and that's, kind of speaks well of your character and your upbringing.
Yeah, exactly, Bruce. And I know you'll laugh at this, and, I don't mean any disrespect by this, but someone asked me the other day, they said, you're in the USA Martial Arts Hall of Fame, what would you like next? And I said, I want to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. So.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly a lot more worthy than quite a few of the people that are in it right now. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, you never know. Certainly any WWE Hall of Fame nominating committee members out there listening, keep Justin Ray Harvey in mind.
Absolutely, Bruce. And before I let you go, Bruce, can you give us your final thoughts? And I need to ask you something privately after we go off air, of course. So.
Yep. Well, I guess my private thoughts, hope people enjoy the Hall of Fame inductions tonight, and I hope WrestleMania does not disappoint. I hope it lives up to its potential. And I'd just like to thank all the listeners for taking from your busy schedules to listen to me and for supporting my good friend Justin Ray Harvey and his broadcast. And I'm delighted to hear that it's been going well and it's become a big hit. So I'd like to thank Justin and the listeners for taking from their time to listen to an old fart like me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bruce, and thank you, everyone, for listening. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Justin Ray Harvey. This is Justin Ray Harvey signing off.
Hi, Stephanie Ma here again with a special report from World Martial Arts Media about LegacyFightGear.com. Legacy Fight Gear is the official supplier to the world's oldest and most respected martial arts organizations. They have been manufacturing high-quality, affordable products for over 30 years. Visit their new online catalog at LegacyFightGear.com today. School owners who want to raise money for their teams can register to get a wholesale account and become a distributor for LegacyFightGear.com. Don't forget to like our official page at www.facebook.com/LegacyFightGear.